friends, it's Lori with Main Street Gardener, and it is a gorgeous day in the garden. So beautiful. We have a little breeze. But today I'm out in my shade garden, and I've done several videos recently out here. And the subscribers and viewers, you guys have been so kind, leaving me amazing comments about this garden, as well as lots of great questions. So I've had this garden. It started 4 years ago this spring, and I started really simple. I'm going to try to find some pictures for you, but it was very basic and it did great for what it did. It was really small and simple. And some of the plants I started with are still here. And then over the past 4 years, I have evolved and evolved and evolved this space to what it is today. And I think there's some key features of this space that really make it look so charming on TV and so beautiful. So I want to talk you through what I did to get started, some of my no fail shade plants. And then I'm going to talk to you about the things I've added that I think make a really big impact in a shade garden. I also want to highlight some of the special plants that I've added, and I think lastly, I want to encourage you to try some plants that may need a little more sun and just give them a shot in your shade garden. And I think it's really about learning the light in your space. And if you do that, I think you can push some plants into your shade garden that you may not be thinking about. Now, the birds are going nuts right now. I hope my microphone clears it out. They are just having an afternoon feast. Whether you're getting started with a shade garden or you have a space that needs a revamp, or maybe you just want to add to your space. So let's get started, and let me know in the comments what is helpful, what questions you have, and anything that you have found works in your garden. I am always looking to add things to this space. Okay, so I want to start here at the shed. And so we added this shed right when we moved in. We put it in like March of 2022, and I love it. It is now my floral shed, but it started as just a garden storage shed and kind of a tool workspace for my husband, but I took it over. So this side of the garden is absolutely lush and beautiful, and it was the first space that I started. So what I did, and I'm going to try to find pictures and put up on the screen. I started with this hydrangea climber. I knew I wanted a climber, and I think it really helps in my space to add some vertical greenness and a garden feature. So I added that first, and then I basically carved out just this little bitty space. And my vision was just to plant in front of the window, really, to just add some annuals, not annuals, to add some perennial shade plants in this garden space. And so initially, that was all my vision was, to just make the side of the shed look better and to provide some beauty. So what I planted first would be my no fail, like shade gardens can grow these and any gardener can grow these, I promise. The first things I added were some ferns. Now I did have ferns all across the back. I've lost two. I can see them down there, but I'm not sure if the cold or animals or what kind of got them. But this fern has done amazing. It comes back every year. So I've got some holes here I'm going to fill in. The next thing I did is, of course, I added hostas. And I started with pretty good sized hostas, as you can see. I wanted the big ones so that they would make a big impact. So I got a variety of sizes of hostas. And towards the end of the summer, you can usually get hostas on sale. And sometimes in the spring. These are just generic, basic Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware, anywhere you can get plants. These are just basic hostas, you guys. They're not anything fancy. I've got the chartreuse green, I've got this dark blue green, I've got the green of the fern, and those were the first plants I planted. So that was truly at the beginning of my space. You can see here again, I've got the color echo with the hostas. Just adding these generic hostas that aren't too expensive, adding some ferns. You can see a fern tucked in down there. And I did spend some money on this climber. So originally it was just a little kind of curved bed. Now, in the beginning, this large hydrangea was not here. I kind of had an empty spot. I'll tell you about her in just a little bit. At the sometime that season, I added this hay rack. This is from Kinsman Garden, and I love it. You've got windows, it just makes sense. So anytime you can add some structure to your garden, I think it really helps. And it just kind of brings some height to the garden. A lot of shade garden plants are very low. You don't get a lot of things that provide a lot of height. So if you can add containers or a window box or a climber, I think it really helps to add some height. Most shade plants are pretty low to the ground. Okay, so the second expansion that I did, and this actually happened the next spring, so spring of 2023, we had a stack of bricks that were left on the back of our property. And so I thought I had enough to edge. So this pathway was not here. We basically had mulched, this entire area was mulched. So I took the bricks and I decided I wanted to lay out a path. And so I got out here one day and I dug in the ground and I laid out the path that we have today. I wanted it to curve and just look kind of magical and lead you back to the back. Now, originally this was just mulch. So I'm going to tell you about adding the gravel later. So now that I had a shape of my garden beds, then I began adding plants to this side, the left, but also I started developing this other side. So this is where I actually enlarged my shade garden. So again, I started with the easiest plants first, and that is hostas and some hellebores that you'll see over here, different colors of hostas. And as I come around, you'll see more hellebores. Isn't this one just so sweet? And more ferns and just different hostas. And I think that year was I added this drinking gourd hosta. I had seen it on Gardening with 𝐼𝐋𝐋𝐖 and I just fell in love with it. That was like my special ad that year. So another thing that I did that year is I added this beautiful container. And so this is just a gorgeous kind of statement piece in the garden. Okay, let's walk back and let me tell you about this gorgeous hydrangea and why she's in the shade garden. In 2022, I had planted this Annabelle hydrangea in the garden. I had bought her at a local garden center, and I knew about little limes and limelights and all of those, but I just really loved the Annabelle, which that's why she's so classic. She's an old classic kind of hydrangea. So I put her in the main garden. Full sun, she was on drip, but yes, she wilted every single day through that summer. It was just so sad. And I read about the Annabelle and I thought, I'm going to move her to the shade garden. So that had given me time to learn my garden. It took me a whole year to kind of figure out I get some morning sun, I get this afternoon sun. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to take a gardening risk worth taking. She's not thriving where she is. I'm going to move her. And she was small. So I pruned her back and I moved her actually in 2023. She did pretty good. 2024, last year, she was stunning. And what I love about it is the pops of white. It's really hard to find shade plants that have white in them. So I kind of tested what normally this would be considered a pretty full sun, like 6 hours a day. I tested it. You can see this year how big she's gotten, and she's covered in blooms. And what's beautiful is she doesn't flop. Now, by the end of summer, she will flop a little bit. I can always trim the bottom where she flops off, but her blooms get so large and white. I can't wait to show them to you. And she just glows in the back of the garden. So my message to you is try things in your garden if you get enough sunlight. Now, if she was at the very back of this garden where it's deep shade, I wouldn't have put her there. But because she gets some morning light, some afternoon light, she is doing fantastic. So not only did I add her to the garden, I started adding other variety of plants that are a little more expensive and sometimes they're hard to find. So let me show you some of those beauties. So a couple things that I added this tiny little blue spruce. It's supposed to stay small, and I just think it's so sweet. I also added this container right here, and it's just another fun structure. But as far as plants, I added Brunnera. So Brunnera is amazing. Now, I know in some areas it can almost be invasive. Mine is not doing that. It's in its third year. And these little runners, after they bloom, you can cut those off if you don't like them. They don't bother me in my space, but if they bother you, you can cut them off. Now, another plant that I added was lugwort. Now, lugwort has struggled a little bit in my area, but you can see this large spotted plant. Now, I need to come in and deadhead it. It does get little pink or blue blooms, but I loved the spotted variegation, and I thought that would be really pretty. A third plant, I have two, and I'm getting ready to plant a third, is the Aurelia Sun King. Now, I saw this one also on Gardening with Creekside because she's south of me, but very, very similar, except I don't have as much humidity. But this Aurelia Sun King, absolutely stunning. Now, in certain areas, it will get huge. Mine has not done that yet. I have a second one right over there. And so it's got plenty of room, but so far it is staying kind of tight. Now, the other thing that I added were some creative, what I call creative hostas. Look at these squiggle shaped hostas. This is part of the Shadowland. Now you can see I've got something out here, probably slugs eating. I need to give them put some Sluggo out. Yeah, they're eating everywhere. But I love the shape and the little touches of white. So I think that really adds some color. Anytime you can add a pop of white in the shade garden, look what a difference that makes. So the other tip I could give you is I've tried to layer my colors, and I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm trying to add some reds, but not next to another red plant. I'm trying to add some chartreuse. This was another Brunnera that I added this year. It's a different variety. And I'm hoping that really grows and fills in this space and will just be beautiful against this hosta. So if I was getting started and I was only doing a garden this space, I would try to do a chartreuse green, a dark green, maybe something with some white. And that's just going to grow together and be beautiful. Prior to last year, this was all mulch, and I had started building out and growing out this space. So let me tell you about my last update prior to this year. Okay, so at the end of last season, I had a couple hydrangeas that I needed to move. And so I decided that I was going to try them in the shade garden. So I've got two here that I moved. It looks like they are setting buds. They are going to be later, and I think it's because these are little limes. So I've got two of them. So this is an experiment, and it was an experiment worth taking because they came from my garden. So because the Annabelle does so great, and I have another limelight I'm going to show you that does great, I wanted to fill in this space, and I actually shopped my own garden. Now again, this space does get filtered light, and I already see buds all over it. So I'm going to keep you updated on how it does, And then I planted one back here. So if these two do well, I want to add a third. I'm saving this hole for that plant. So we'll see how it does. I just want to get that pop of white in my space. So let me turn around and show you the front of this shade garden and two plants. Yeah, three plants that are not in full sun, probably should be, and they're doing fantastic. So first would be on either side, when I created my path, I added these Oh Doozy spireas, and look how huge they are. They've gotten ginormous. I did not prune them back this winter. And the pops of pink, isn't that incredible against the shade garden? I love, love, love them. I would actually like to plant one in the back, maybe right back there, and just see how they do as a test. These are now what I want to show you where I really push the limits right here. This is a little lime hydrangea. And I decided to add one here because you can see this is late afternoon when I'm filming and it is getting full sun. Again, this is not on drip. Now this plant will wilt some in the summer when it's really, really hot, but she does get some shade protection during the heat of the day, and then she gets kind of morning and afternoon sun. My garden is north-south facing. This would be a great example where even a little lime, I think you can press it into your shade garden as long as it gets a few hours of good sun, not in deep shade, in filtered shade. And just look what a statement she makes. And then behind her is the Annabelle. So one plant over about 2 years is going to make a big statement in your shade garden. I think little lime would be a great addition at an entrance to a shade garden as a front kind of statement piece, maybe where it's not as shaded. Um, the pop of white and the lime green color is just going to be beautiful. Okay, so last fall, I decided that I really loved how the garden was coming together, but I had dark mulch all through here. And it was neat and it was fine, but there was just something that wasn't working. And so I decided it needed something brighter. So one of my final tips for you is if you have stepping stones or a pathway in a shade garden, to use a lighter material. So either like a limestone stone or this pea gravel that is lighter. And while it is definitely a pop, it really leads your eye through the garden. I think it really makes an impact in a shade space. It also keeps things cooler, and I think it also bounces the light. So light colored things will kind of bounce the light versus something dark. And then of course, because I have room in my space, last year after we added the pathway, I actually, a friend, or not a friend, a neighbor on Facebook makes these tables, and it was very affordable, solid wood, waterproofed. And I just thought that is going to work in this space. The reason I wanted it, I don't know that we may eat out here at some point, but I really loved it for doing projects. I do a lot of flower workshops and photography workshops, and it's great to have a shaded space. So I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit more about my shade garden and how it evolved. And I'll tell you, I don't feel like I've spent a lot of money in this space. It may look like it. Yes, the rocks, getting that work done. We actually had a friend spread it. It wasn't too bad. But I've added just a few plants every year. And now it's to the point that I'm adding fun plants. I just got back from the garden center and I went to a special garden center just to look at their shade plants. And I wanted native specimens and I wanted something different. So I've got some that I'll be showing you in another video. But if you are just getting started, start simple. Just craft out a little garden space. You could even start in a raised bed. You could start in containers and add some of these basic shade plants. You are going to love it. And then over time, you can add more and more. I would also encourage you to hang out in your shade garden and really understand the light. I think that all of you could try pushing some other shrubs and plants into your shade garden. And I'm going to continue to kind of push the envelope with that. And I'm going to try some other plants this year that maybe are borderline. Um, Sometimes the tag will say sun to part shade. And those are the plants I'm going to look for to try to maybe pop in some parts in my garden. So I'll be bringing you along for those updates. But if you're just getting started and you have questions, message me anytime. That's going to do it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Please click like, subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.